So, yeah, hi everyone. Happy to be here. Thanks for making time to be with me and with Hannah and Jeff today. You just let's say registered to attend a talk which is called Innovation by Design. But actually, as I was creating the content, I realized that if I could travel back in time, I would change this title and I would call this talk Innovation by Designers. Oh, but yeah, I hope this is still of interest for you, Innovation by Designers. And hi again, Hannah has already introduced me. So yeah, my name is Cristina. You may guess from my accent that I'm from Italy. I am usually based in Berlin, as many of you have seen. And Hannah also mentioned this, like I have an unconventional path to design. I actually studied bioengineering many years ago at this point. I hold a PhD in tissue fabrication and organ biofabrication. And I actually ran a biofabrication lab in a research institute for 3 years after my PhD, before deciding to transition to design. This was like back up to 2018, end of 2018. But now I work as a service designer. And we'll see also how science somehow entered again through the window in my practice. But like I work as a service designer in transformational innovation. This is a little bit the story that I want to share with you today. What it means to work in innovation as a designer. Specifically, just as Anna introduced, I work with an NGO, the Rainforest Alliance. You may have some products in your kitchen cabinet that hold the logo of Rainforest Alliance. We certify products for imagine coffee, teas. The logo is a little frog. Maybe you know it, maybe you don't. But like the role of this NGO is to basically be a bridge between farmers and big corporations. We train and certify farmers for adopting more sustainable and regenerative agricultural practices. And on the other side, we certify those companies that use these commodities to produce their products. The vision of RA, when you hear me say RA, I'm meaning Rainforest Alliance. So the vision of RA is a world where people and nature thrive in harmony. And this is translated more tangibly in a mission that actually speak about this role that they have as a bridge between farmers and big corporations. They want to, actually, I think, Hannah mentioned this in the presentation. They want to use social market forces to protect nature and improve the lives of farmers and forest communities. I always picture Ray as a sort of Robin Hood that manages to deal with the big corporates here, think Nestle, McDonald's, that big, to basically channel their resources towards supporting farmers that are trying to do good on the ground. Their work is divided into some thematic pillars: forest and biodiversity, human rights, livelihood, and climate. The project I want to share with you today falls into this category of climate. That's why I bolded that. And this is like somehow like going together through a project is what I would like us to discuss today. I will actually take my first 10 months at Array to show you a little bit like what it means to be a designer in innovation and what are the things that very much resonates with a designer's skills and classic jobs, and what also are the competences and skills that you have to stretch with to be successful. I will have to speak about this project a little high level because this hasn't been still released publicly outside, let's say, the organization. But I hope this will be clear anyway. I'm happy to take questions if there are any and answer with everything that I can, but I believe like you can understand this requirement. And let's start. Let me first very briefly give you an explanation of how the team of innovation works at the Rainforest Alliance. So we have right now a group of 10 people. In the last 2.5 years that I worked in this team, we shifted between being 8 and 15. And the background is very diverse. So there are people that have a pure background in innovation, business, 2 designers, marketing, and also agriculture as a sort of internal expertise. We are a fully remote team, so we are spread around the globe. And actually, the whole organization is fully remote. The team is pretty centralized, meaning that for now, innovation at Array is like concentrated in this team. And if other teams need to access innovation capabilities, they need to come to us. I wrote for now because one of the mission of the innovation team is also to evangelize with innovation methods and processes outside of the innovation team itself, so that teams can be slightly more autonomous. But for now, we just from the team support them to be more innovative. And we have 3 scopes of work. One is what we may call Innovation 101, so research and development. This is a core activity, create new value proposition, new services as a result of our process. But we do also some more like internal work, so developing trainings and sharing innovation methods with other teams, and also facilitating other projects that don't start in the innovation team to follow the innovation process. We'll see in a bit what it means, what the process and what it means for trying to follow evidence-based type of process. But this is like the 3 scopes of work that we have in the team. So I told you we were going to go back in time and travel through my first 10 months of project in Array as a way to speak about like how this job looks like. And it all started in December 2021 when a friend of mine, which was working at Rainforest Alliance, told me that the transformational innovation team was looking for a service designer to support the prototyping phase of a new service proposition. The keywords, in a certain sense, that were in this job posting were testing assumptions, running experiments, collect evidence for decision making. And during the interview and in my motivation letter, I actually used the story that I used to. I'm a service designer, but I used to be a scientist. So like testing and experiments are, I can do that. And this got me the job. So I was hired, and I was introduced to this service proposition that we needed to prototype. The strategic target from which this project was sprouting was the goal of unlocking long-term funding opportunities to finance the sustainability interventions in agricultural landscape. Read this as channeling money to farmers. They wanted to unlock long-term funding because the NGO usually works with philanthropy funds, grants, which have a 1 to 5 years time period. So it's always very stressful to find the new finances constantly. So the idea was like, let's try to unlock long-term opportunities, funding opportunities. The innovation team, before I joined, had done some trend research, interviewed experts both internally and externally, and did some discoveries interview with the corporate clients, which for us would be the one providing the funding, to pinpoint an opportunity space. That one of having, of targeting the sustainability budgets that are directed towards specific pledges, mainly the carbon emission reduction targets. Here, think about net zero carbon neutral coffee, for example. So this was the context, and the new service proposition was about connecting these two needs, the needs of farmers for funding and the interesting companies in financing a project that could help them reach their emission reduction targets. So once I was introduced with this context, I had some expectations and understanding of what was the job I had to do. And some of them were true, some of them were not true. So I had to understand in time what were the realities behind an innovation project. I didn't have previous experience in innovation per se. So what I thought was happening is that the organization has set these strategic targets, they had pinpointed the opportunity space, and from that, the design process would have started. So the team before I joined had explored the problem space, do all the interviews needed, pinpointed again a problem to be solved, ideated a solution, and now they wanted to prototype this solution to make it better and converge into like a final design. This was my understanding of it. And it wasn't completely wrong, because the team before I joined actually did a lot, possibly, of problem exploration work. They had talked with companies and with farmers whose respective job to be done was to either reach emission reduction targets or get funding for, in this case, carbon negative restoration activities. They had extrapolated from these interviews all the pain points that they had. They had mapped that into a journey as is, so the journey as it is today in their path towards reaching this goal. And I had a first draft of the journey to be, so like, how are we gonna change this journey to make it better, solve these pain points? And they wanted actually to prototype it. So there were some points in which I was right, this is what was happening, but also I wasn't really capturing the whole picture. First of all, and very simply, they weren't following a double diamond process, which is a design process. They were following an innovation process, specifically an innovation funnel. The word funnel here is important because the scope of this process is to really filter through different stages only those ideas that are actually promising to deliver value for both the customers, all other stakeholders involved, and the organization itself. You can see it's divided in phases. Some of them are very similar to what we may know as the phases of a design process. So there is an exploration, so problem space, ideation, prototyping and testing, develop and validate. And here in the purple stages, we are in what we call the test environment. So everything is still happening behind the scenes. And in the transition, see, this is also the funnel. Not all ideas that enter in Explore and Ideate will arrive at Develop and Validate. There is a filtering mechanism. And then the new service, new product is launched and goes through the live environment. In the live environment, so in the outside world, get offered to customers, grows and scales. We were in this prototype and testing phase, and you may already see that, for example, with differently from what we're used in Double Diamond, there is a bigger focus in this idea of testing and validating. 2 of 3 phases are dedicated to this. And indeed, this reflects what's literally the scope of the funnel. So filtering the ideas through what we call, and actually is generically called, a gate. Each of these phases ends up with a gate for which you have to provide empiric evidence that it is worth to make the idea pass to the next gate. Imagine that each gate means more time and more resources invested in the idea. So you want to create these evidences. Someone, specifically in Array, usually this is the leadership team, will analyze those evidences and see if it's worth to give you budget to further develop the idea through the funnel. So this was the context. So our mission was to pass the prototyping phase and pass the gate. So let's go back to the story. So I was just hired. We were handing off from the Explore and Ideate phase to the prototyping phase. We were changing team, but this is completely like circumstantial. This doesn't need to happen. But then another team was handing off to us, specifically to me and another innovation team, plus some external collaborators, the whatever they collected and created during the Explore and Ideate phase. And specifically, very quickly, what they did was market analysis, customer research, expert interview, some analysis of the ecosystem in the carbon space. And they gave us a series of deliverables, like the insights, a first iteration of the personas, those journeys, both with the pains and both of like how they imagined the journey to be after our intervention. So at the end, everything was packaged in a solution idea that we needed to prototype and test in order to unlock the develop and validate phase. Unlocking this phase, specifically, each stage usually has a series of criteria that you have to reach to unlock the next phase. And for the prototype and test, this is validating the value proposition, clarifying the activities and the capabilities that are needed to deliver the service, and estimating costs and revenues. So these are the three, in a certain sense, goals that we needed to reach to be able to take this idea and pass it to the develop and validate phase. So the prototyping and testing is all about reducing the risks. So you want to collect evidence to reduce the uncertainties around your idea. You will iterate on the idea as you test the idea. And you may recognize in these three goals of the prototyping and testing phase, the three, let's say, bubbles of new product development. So validating value proposition is all about desirability, clarifying activities and capabilities about the feasibility of the idea, and estimating costs and revenues, it's really about the viability of it. So the prototyping and testing phase has to deal with the assumptions that are spread all over these three realms. So definitely going beyond desirability, surely going beyond only usability. This is literally too early to talk about usability, but also like providing evidence for feasibility and viability as well, and finding that combination of a solution that could basically fulfill all these three criteria in order to then present this to our leadership team and get the keys to open the gate for the next stage. So the desirability piece, let's say, was much concerning the willingness to pay of our paying customers, which in this case were the corporate that would finance the project. The feasibility stage, it's about clarifying activities and capabilities. So there is a lot of internal work. The internal teams within Array that are meant to deliver the service are the ones that are able to clarify which activities and capabilities are needed. And the partners that we may find outside are the second stakeholders to be considered and involved in the testing of the feasibility assumptions. The viability part, it's mostly internal job. It's about creating those evidences for the cost and revenues of this service to get basically a green light from the finance team and the leadership team that this is something that it's worth investing in the resources needed to go into the next phase again. So these were the three different type of stakeholders that we deal with in prototyping and testing these three different realms of new product and service development. And this is also actually the order that we use to test. And because as you will see, every time we unlocked an insight or a deliverable from one bubble, it was used to basically build the testing of the next one. You will see in a moment what I mean. So prototyping means literally building the key for the gate. How did we do that? As I anticipated, we started testing desirability. This is something maybe that designers are very used to. So I believe this is the type of testing that you will be most familiar with and understanding better. We wanted to test with paying customers their willingness to pay and validate the value proposition. So our prototype was a very simple low fidelity prototype we did in Miro of the type of project that we wanted to propose to corporates. In these prototypes, they could see the scope of the project, the type of impact we were going to generate, how many, like what was the carbon capture that they were going to achieve with which activities, the geography, all the features of the project. And they would then explore a series of purchasing options. Here we talk about the price points and modalities of payment. So will this be a one spot payment or more of a long-term engagement? How many years? What do you want as a report if you're gonna do long-term, etc. So the focus was really about matching the project type with the price point and the paying modalities. With these prototypes, we simulated sale calls with corporate clients. And we integrated the insights from this conversation with some competitor analysis, so seeing in which other places the corporates could shop basically for emission reduction initiatives, and some experts interview in the realm of carbon sequestration. The result of this testing was an updated value proposition focusing on corporates, in which we could really capture what were their needs and expectations in terms of desired project. And we could refine the archetypes of the project that we needed to target in order to be able to capture these budgets that corporates are using to reach their emission reduction targets. Second, we passed to test feasibility. Here, maybe I would expect, that's an assumption, but I would expect that here it starts becoming less familiar, the type of activities we had to do. So feasibility, as we have said, it's about understanding the activities and the capabilities that are needed to deliver this service. And we started with the journeys of both the companies and the farmers. And we analyzed with a series of internal workshops, so with array teams, what type of, which step of this journey we couldn't actually deliver with our current capabilities. So we really looked for capability gaps. And for each one of these gaps, we had to decide if we wanted to build those capabilities internally, so invest in capabilities uptake, if we wanted to find partners that could work with us to help us deliver that step, or if we wanted to basically buy the competence, just find the subcontractors that would do this for us. So we focused a lot on where can we find partners. And the prototype for this phase was a draft partnership proposal in which we were asking our partners to basically fill all our capability gaps. The focus was here to find those partners that could help us deliver the customer value. So always having in mind that what we needed to do was deliver on the journey, because that's the way we were gonna give to both companies and farmers the value and the impact that we wanted to promise them. So our prototype in this case looked more like a Word document that we shared with prospect partners. And the tangible deliverables that we had from this test we did with partners was a revised partnership agreements filled with all the feedback that we received in this conversation with prospect partners, and a validated service blueprint. Maybe you are already familiar with the service blueprint, but just like to quickly give you a very high-level overview. This is a classic service design artifact that starts with the journey. So on top, you have the customer journey, but you want to work to define and communicate through this artifact all the operations, both in their interaction with your customer, but also in the backstage, that needs to happen for you to be able to deliver the journey. So here, all those activities and capability gaps and interaction with partners, etc., need to be somehow expressed and defined. So through these exercises, we could really obtain a validated service blueprint, validated with both internal teams and potential partners. Finally, we had to test viability. And to do that, we started with the service blueprint. So the service blueprint was telling a story of what needed to happen in order for the journey to happen. We added a line to this service blueprint, and through a series of workshops and estimations and back and forth among teams, we managed to put together a line of costs. So for all these operations and for each step, what are the costs that we will incur in order to be able to do what we say we will do? And from this analysis, and taking back from the initial desirability tests, the information on the willingness to pay and the price point and on the type of projects, we put together financial scenarios of growth. So if these are the projects we're going to do that can be fetched at this specific price, if these are the costs that we have to deliver this service, how will the finances of the initiative look like? So the prototype in this case was a spreadsheet in which there was the revenue model and the scaling up scenarios for the service. And this was translated into basically financial models and graphs that could really describe what was going to be the potential revenues coming out from the service. And we could also work a budget request to ask to our leadership team, like, this is the money we need to do all these things in the develop and validate phase. So we had explored the assumptions in all the three realms, and it was time to see what was beyond the gate. You've seen what we went through now, maybe too fast, maybe this gave you dizziness, headaches, but what we went through together right now were 10 months of work. 10 months in which we did all kinds of interviews and financial projections, workshops and whatnot, in order to be able to collect those evidences that our leadership team was expecting from us for the gate meeting. Specifically, as a designer, this for me meant facilitating a lot of workshops in which all this information was gathered. Sometimes it was not even workshops, sometimes it was really asynchronous collaboration, because teams of Rainforest Alliance are spread all around the globe, around all possible time zones. So sometimes it was facilitating asynchronous collaboration. Sometimes it was about creating visual prototypes, which was very familiar task. Sometimes it was about creating design artifacts like a service blueprint or a journey, again, pretty familiar. But sometimes it was really about repurposing those artifacts to maybe talk about budgets and capabilities. And sometimes it looked like managing to do data visualization from a spreadsheet. In this case, I must say I was a little advantaged by my previous background in science. So I'm not afraid of numbers, I'm not afraid of graphs. So when the design lead, the innovation lead knew that, she was like, okay, Cristina, then now you will do that as well. So that's very characteristic of me, but I'm sure someone else would have been asked to find some cross-sectional skills that they would have to just put them in the innovation, because as you can see, this process is pretty vast and complex, and sometimes just you have to improvise a solution. So this is more or less what were my tasks during these 10 months. And we managed, with all these 10 months of work, to actually collect all the evidences that convinced our leadership team to give us the keys to open the gate to the develop and validate phase. So we will not go through that process. Just know that we reached that gate, we were in develop and validate. And as you see, this is the last step of the test environment. So after that, we need to be able to launch the service and go into the orange realm of live environment, where we actually sell and propose this offering to the corporates. This means having them on their website, having pitch decks for our account managers, etc., etc. And just to give you an idea of the criteria, to unlock the next phase, what we have to do, what we are doing now, what we are almost done actually after another year, is to run a pilot project in which all the moving pieces to deliver this service are actually moving, so that we can really prove that this is possible. We can prove it on a small scale with just one project, but we can prove it's possible. And we have to also manage the handing off from innovation. Innovation doesn't really, like, they support the orange phase, but it's not their job. That's the job of the teams on the ground. So we have to manage this handing off from the innovation team to the regional and local teams that will actually develop the service. What are my tasks in this new phase? One is to keep collecting the learnings as we run this pilot project, to better define what's the service blueprint and like what are the things that needs to be done and how we can still improve the way we think about this service. Surely there is a piece of work that is about designing the first touch points, like actual touch points that will be used to deliver this service, and then facilitating this handoff to other teams. Just to give you maybe a little closing, this pilot project that we're doing has to do with tea farmers in India. And this has been an extremely rewarding phase for me, not only because I managed I had the chance to go to India and do field research, workshop facilitation, but also because we passed from this phase of prototyping that it was all about doubts and risks, where everything seemed just a problem to overcome, to actually appreciating the impact that this work can produce on the ground. So it has been an extremely rewarding phase that is almost over, possibly with the building of another gate key that will let us launch this service publicly. So after these gates, what treasure did I find? Surely there are some lessons. This is a sort of like summary, synthesis of what I learned in those 10 months, also in the year after those 10 months, and that I hope can be somehow of value for you as well. So what I learned by doing innovation as a designer. So on one side we have stuff that a designer can bring to the table just because it's a designer. So the designer's bread and butter value to innovation. One for sure is customer centricity. So we are like that. That's kind of like our mantra, to be customer centric, and it's very easy to do that when we are exploring usability or desirability. But really, being a designer, you can project this customer centricity also in the development of like the solution in terms of feasibility and viability. We have seen we could use journeys and service blueprints to also talk about budgets and capabilities. So like we have this ability to keep always the focus on the customer value, also when the solution gets iterated under these other lenses, which is surely something that like delivers a lot of value, especially when this will be offered outside, because like we always kept the customer in mind also during those other, let's say, phases of the development process. Surely we can bring a lot of value with our capabilities to do synthesis and research. Learnings don't only happen during a research phase, they are constant. Sometimes they happen in conversation with teams during a field visit. So our ability and capacity to always connect the dots is of extreme value in every possible moment of the innovation process. And surely making things tangible is also something that when you have to put together all these different stakeholders becomes extremely handy, not only when you do a prototype or you design a touch point, but also when you convert maybe a difficult conversation to have around a spreadsheet in something very much more visual. And these are all things that we can, as designers, take to the table. But there are also stuff that we need to learn. Some sink or I cannot actually read my slide anymore. Sink or swim situation. And one of these is surely to go beyond customers. So customers should always be in our field of view, but we cannot lose also focus on business, yes, but also on partners, also on internal stakeholders, other teams. So we really need to broaden our field of view to always think of every possible stakeholder as the user of the solution. So even who delivers the solution is a user of that solution. And we need to really start reasoning in that sense. And the other 2 points, they kind of go together. So this was also mentioned somehow in the answers of what innovation means to you. You have to do a lot, like you have to deal with so many people, so many stakeholders, and you have to facilitate that collaboration, which sometimes is very radical. It's not just about people that work with your design. Sometimes it's like, in this case, with farmers, but almost in every case with finance people and compliance people. Like, really, you need to facilitate very radical collaboration. And to do that, sometimes you have to adopt non-designers tool. I started by making so many Miro boards that then people were so stressed to use that I had to start doing my journeys in Excel. And sometimes putting together people from different time zones in the same room for a live workshop was not possible. So I had to figure out a way to make asynchronous collaboration, which sometimes meant to have slides that people could comment on and things like that. So you really have to become comfortable with what's not usually in your toolbox and stretch a little bit out of your comfort zone. Just as another like little lesson, I think I got some insight of what it means specifically to do innovation in an NGO environment. One is like that NGO are places where there is some sort of resistance to talk about money. Money feels dirty, money feels wrong, but you cannot really talk about innovation without considering the cost and the revenues, because at the end of the day, people in NGOs get paid somehow, so we need to be profitable. So this conversation need to happen. They are extremely important in the innovation funnel. You've seen the climax of all the prototyping phase was having a financial model, and yeah, you have to deal with that resistance. Another point that, at least for Array, is extremely true, but I believe you may encounter it in many other NGO, is the aversion to risks. The reputation is one of the best assets that an NGO has, and doing anything new is a risk. But truth is that you cannot have innovation without dealing with uncertainties. It's impossible. You can prototype, you can develop, you can have how many phases of testing you want. But truth is that you can reduce risk and never remove them. Otherwise, you're not really doing something new. So you have to fight in a certain sense with this aversion to risk constantly. But truth is also that I found the most possible collaborative environment ever in the NGO. People is extremely mission driven. People know that what you ask them to do, even if it's uncomfortable, even if it is outside of their comfort zone, sometimes even if it is about leaving comments on a Miro board, they may be scared at first, but they know that it's a way for you to help them contribute to this common goal that the organization has, in which everyone believes. So it's an extremely rewarding environment to work in. And actually, this also works within NGOs. So the Array innovation team is part of an innovation for impact network, in which we monthly have conversation with other NGOs about innovation method, about our processes, our challenges, etc. And also in that case, I found extremely highly collaborative environment. So it's there are some drawbacks and challenges, but to me, it's been an extremely rewarding place to work in. So I will pause here And hopefully I didn't gave you too many information. I want to thank you anyway for your attention. You can, of course, connect in LinkedIn. I have a Medium blog that I don't use a lot, but I should. And I think it's time for some questions. Thanks again for holding with my talking and animations.
Thanks so much, Cristina. It was really exciting to see the detail and kind of the journey that you went through in this process as well. I feel like sometimes sometimes we get a bit of like theory or kind of watered down version in a way, and I know you couldn't go into all the details, but it really you laid it out in a really wonderful, clear way, and so I really appreciate you sharing that with us. And so we have a couple of questions in the chat, and feel free to continue to put them in there. One that just came in that I really love is, what does innovation mean to Cristina?
So, like, the reason I asked the audience, I asked you to ask the audience, is just actually because, like, I had some difficulties at the beginning to define it, because you can innovate by creating the new service, but you can innovate with a process. You can innovate just taking something that someone else is doing somewhere else and applying it to your field. So at the end, I just like went to the dictionary to to learn what innovation is. And if you ask me now, after doing that research, I would say that it's innovation, whatever is something new. It's either something new to you, maybe the other people know about that, but to you, that's innovating. You are innovating because for you it's new, or it's new for the world, and then it's disruptive. But to me, it's something new.
Yeah, I like that you take almost, I think a lot of times people talk about innovation from this like corporate or systems level, and I love just taking it from the personal point as well. Like, right, like if it's new for you, it's innovative for you. Like it has so many different layers. From the personal to the corporate to the societal to all these different areas as well.
And if I may add, sometimes it's very much, there is this obsession that it's not innovative if it's not using the last technology. And I really believe it's not, that's too strict of a definition. You don't have to put AI and then you're innovative.
Right. Not all innovation is technological innovation. We have a question here from Marcia. They ask, what were some of your key challenges you faced during this project, and how did you overcome them? You already mentioned a few, such as time zone differences and unfamiliarity with specific tools, but wondering if there are any others you could point out.
Well, I think that one big thing was to deal personally, and then also to support the others in accepting the uncertainty. Because at the beginning, maybe as a scientist, this was like giving me some wrong biases in which you look for the precise solution to the problem. And like, maybe you can, if you have an equation, it's easy, it's a model. It's always a model, almost always a model in science. Here it's the real world. So you can try to have a model of what's happening, but it will never be comprehensive. So there is always a certain level of uncertainty that you have to accept, and you have to make others accept. So first you have to be convinced enough that this is an enough level of risk to take and move on, and then use that certainty to basically sell to the others this concept that this is enough level of certainty, it's enough, let's move on. I guess there is some like big psychological aspect in that.
Yeah, and that kind of gets at one of these other questions we have from Amanda. Working with other stakeholders, what got their buy-in beyond the numbers? Like, what maybe helped get this shift or feeling okay with a bit of uncertainty? Was there anything else that you can kind of think of that supported that?
So in the NGO environment, it's easier, but I believe it may work everywhere else. And it was really about talking about impact. So in a certain sense, future state. If this happens, beyond the fact that I can prove you through the numbers that it's safe enough to try, then this is possibly the outcome that we can achieve. And again, for an NGO, usually it's like impact on the lives of farmers. impact on overall numbers of hectares that you can restore towards more biodiverse landscape. Maybe for another type of company would be other type of outcomes, but like having tangible outcomes of desired future state is always somehow the sugar that you can coat the uncertainty with.
There's my own personal question in there, but did like storytelling have anything to do with thinking about how to like help imagine those futures, like put people into those future states, or kind of think about those tangible outcomes?
So actually, I wish, meaning that specifically in this project, as I was saying, jumping in an already advanced state of the process, that couldn't happen too much, because a lot of stuff was already decided. But like reconstructing the story of the project, or referring to other project in the initial phase in which you have strategic targets and opportunity, then there is a lot of space for talking about desired future states and set those opportunities and select those opportunities.
Well, we're running out of time, and we do have some more questions. So I know that it's okay. You're very easy to get in contact with and approachable. So if you do have some more questions for Cristina, please reach out to her on LinkedIn or on our Slack group. So I know Jeff's putting some of that links into the chat as well. But yeah, I'd love to just thank you again for sharing your experience with us and spending time. Give you a little bit of another